What the problem is? Oh, it's going. Oh my God. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. Evolutionary. We were talking about evolutionary psychology. And because you were saying, we were talking about when this issue began. And you have been, do you mind if I talk about the GI, the stuff that you've been dealing with? Can
Yeah.
you? Okay. So you have you actually have an amoeba or a parasite, and you've had it for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So at that point, you've gone in for 5 years worth of all sorts of different treatment. It was misdiagnosed. No one knew what it was. You went and got tested for a parasite from this group that actually, what happened with that group? They got in trouble, or they were misdiagnosing people 80% of the time, right?
Yeah, it was something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they said you didn't have one when you did. I'm sorry, that someone called.
Oh,
So you were misdiagnosed, and eventually you went to a naturopath,
yeah.
right? This naturopath had a different solution, but we were talking. You were saying I had gone all through all of this, went through all this testing, 5 years of this misery because it hurts so bad inside my stomach, and then I've gone through all of this, was misdiagnosed, went this. And all along the way, you were dealing with physical pain and ailments and got an eating disorder, right? And I was like,
Yes.
oh,
Yeah.
for sure, right? And when did it occur? Most people would assume it occurred while you gained all of that weight working with the naturopath.
Right. I mean, I think that it was part of it. It was such a shock to have, um, to be changed on this other diet where, I had completely changed what I was eating and put food under such a microscope. I think that was really it. Whether it started with her or just the very like course of treatments,
Sure.
having to go on gluten, dairy. I mean, every food group I had to like really put under a microscope and just focus so much on. I think that really contributed to like this development
Yeah.
of food is the enemy or like my body is the enemy, that kind of thing. And this
Food is
changes before.
threatening. Food might be the cause of this
Right. It was
pain.
just a very
Got it. Yeah.
difficult time. I mean,
That that would definitely be part of how it blossoms.
yeah.
Okay, the blossom is very different than the seed that's planted.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
that. I
do you
mean,
see what I'm saying? Most
yeah,
people
yeah.
would assume that the issues occur when the food is manipulated,
Right,
right?
right.
That that would make sense if
Yeah.
you don't understand the root cause of an eating disorder. So I was saying to you, chances are the seed was planted during the 5 years you had. I said, were you very thin? Did you lose weight during that time? Obviously, because you're in pain, and that changes too how food is appealing. Pain and food don't necessarily work together
Yeah.
unless the food removes the pain, which it probably didn't.
No, it didn't.
So
Yeah.
I said to you, okay, so where this seed was planted was during that time.
Mm.
It's anytime you have an attachment to being thin. And the other part of this is the soil was probably created during junior high or high
No, of
school,
course.
right?
Yeah. Of course.
Where the belief begins, because beliefs are so strong in terms of manipulating the neuropeptides in your brain. What you believe, the brain responds to. If you believe you're going to die, whether you are or not, the brain responds as if you're going to die. If you believe you're going to win the lottery, the brain will respond to that, right? So when you create an attachment to something or a need, that would be based on a belief of necessity. Beliefs around necessity are like survival beliefs.
Right.
Okay, I need to have this to survive. In junior high, we were talking about how the girls in general, boys do too, they have their own beliefs around survival with sex, how many girls can you get, what type of car do you drive, how big is your body, do you have, they have similar issues. But ours, girls in particular in our country, the ideal is the thin or fit body, or a body that has some special power, like you can do athletics, the function of the body, right? So in junior high, chances are the soil for the seed to be planted was believing that if you are thinner, you have more power in our culture. You're more likely to get attention. People will think you're more successful. They won't assume that you are lazy. We could actually argue that some of these beliefs are real and you have to live in them, right?
Yeah.
So if you at any point felt that you might need to lose some weight, or you could lose some weight, and it may not have been a serious belief, but you still believed it, what do
It
you...
was more than that. I first had an eating disorder when I was 14.
Oh, okay. So this, you see where I said, okay, this is all, okay. So when you were 14, the belief that being thin could save your life, could make everything
100%.
better. That's your one thing that you could prove that you are a worthy person, even though there's chaos around you, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that belief started then. Very predictable, right? Because that's a very predictable environment. That's the way they think in junior high. Most people, most adults at this point, do you think they truly resolve those beliefs into adulthood? I know. If you yeah, if you believe your clothes and the luxury of the clothes is what makes you like better or gives you a security in a group, chances are it's going to be important to you into your late teens and into your 20s. And it's going to be something that's going to, important to you even into adulthood. Anyways, which can create challenge if you don't have the finances to pay for it into adulthood, right? Anyways, so there's some of this is predictable. Anyways, so you can see at that point that if you had a body image, what I call a body image addiction, that means the body image is your euphoria. Being thin is your drug. It creates this sense of peace and euphoria and dopamine, and it's really getting you high inside the brain because the belief is that when you are thinner, you are safe from threat. You are more socially acceptable. You are going to have a value in your community, which brings us back to that, the belief in the evolutionary psychology beliefs, right? Where they believe that our behavior has become predictable based on how we have learned to survive, right? The need to be accepted in a group is part of survival. So if your group believes that if you have a thin body, you're going to be welcomed, what do you think you're going to feel like? When you lose that weight later in life because of a bacteria or a parasite. I mean, so I said to you at some point when you were, do you remember me saying when you did you get really thin from that parasite? And you said, yes.
Yeah.
I said, and that right there is why you have the blossoming today. The seed in that
Right.
stemmed from the beliefs from junior high. You got your wish later in life. And can you see why, too, if the belief was created in junior high, why when you got that seed and it was planted, how it became so more powerful than it should have been?
Yeah.
Because the belief stemmed from a junior high state of mind. It's like an adult, you have the cognition, right, to say this is this is part of a parasite. This is I am sick. There's something wrong. But someone in junior high would go, and this is the best thing ever. Benefit? This is the best benefit ever. Right? It's like saying, after chemo, I got so thin. It was amazing. Everybody should do chemo. It's like, whoa.
Right.
Who would say? But those feelings existed based on the belief that started in junior high. So once you have that thinness, right, and then you're still having pain and you're still having all these other issues, right? You went to this naturopath who said, we're going to put you on basically a ketogenic diet. All meat, all fat, no starch, right? And prior to that, you were trying to eat mostly vegetables and very lean and, right? So that shift, and then the micromanagement of all of what's in this food and what you can't have. became, and so at that point, you said you gained over 20 pounds in a month.
Yeah.
So to someone that created this, like, I have a crown because I'm thin, right? How do you think that would have felt to you versus someone who didn't care about their weight?
Oh, it was devastating. I mean,
The 20 pounds was devastating.
Yeah.
But that wasn't it. Your hair fell out. You started growing facial hair. So that ketogenic diet in relation to a very maybe lean, high starch diet completely, abruptly changed your endocrine system. Yeah. And it's not about that diet sucks. It's about the fact that whoever prescribed it for you didn't realize that having an abrupt shift from one to another is going to shock your thyroid and adrenals and your liver and your kidneys and everything.
Right. Yeah, and it did.
And it did.
Like a completely different person health-wise,
Yeah.
Up until then, I was a fairly healthy person, and it just completely took all that away.
Healthy. Fairly healthy.
Yeah, I mean, fairly meaning I never had to go to the doctor for anything. I was functioning as a person
with a parasite, with all of your pain and an eating disorder. So you really need to think about that before you say, because 20 pounds of fat isn't really unhealthy. So
no, it was the hormonal shifts that I was feeling.
Yes, okay. So your body
and that hair loss, all of that, and
yes.
the fatigue, the extreme fatigue.
Yeah, and the extreme fatigue. Okay, yes, you're correct. So your body was managing well under the circumstance. So it was surviving with a parasite very well. That goes, I mean, and then yes, even though at the time you probably didn't even know that you were attaching to being thin, which was psychologically creating a sensitivity to food issues in the long run. Because if you have to get back to that body, and chances are in your mind, you have that image of that body you had those 5 years of illness, and you want it back. That is your safety. That's like saying that's where the bears and the cougars and the things that were going to kill me, they didn't go that area. I was super safe. I could frolic around in that area with that weight. It's like your brain associated survival. That's why it's so powerful. That size, those genes, that number, it's so powerful because it holds the euphoria of your acceptance and your worth. So you have to really think, where's the problem? Do you need to get back there and that's the solution?
No, I'm so done with,
Well, you're learning that part, right? It's becoming harder.
I totally get that part. I just want to, I'm so done with having a dysfunctional relationship with food, and I just need to normalize that in my life. It has really, at this point, the weight, the goal weight, whatever, it's so far from even what I'm feeling right now. I'm so done with just being so dysfunctional with food. Like, I remember a time in my life where it wasn't that way, where I didn't obsess over food or what I was not going to eat, or that kind of thing, or whatever weight I was. I never weighed myself for so much of my life. It just didn't matter. Like, it didn't happen. I didn't overeat. I didn't stuff myself. I didn't starve myself. None of that. And I would love to get back to that. I have 3 kids. I'm a mother. Like, I want to be present in that and not have myself consumed by food. It seems so ridiculous to me. It's just, I'm done with it. I'm really just done with it. I can't do it anymore.
Have you resolved the fact that for that to happen, that you have to basically accept your body right now, that this has to be safe? You have to think about that body that you used to think was so amazing, and you have to mourn and grieve the fact that it wasn't, and it will never be. Part of it is that it was an illusion of grandeur. Do you see that when you were in that size of body, that it wasn't necessarily better? It wasn't necessarily, you could say that at that point you didn't have that hormonal shock that keto diet that the naturopath put you in Did
Yeah.
she probably put you in a bunch of supplements too?
No,
No?
yeah, a bunch of supplements. And she was just like, take them and left me.
Yeah, yes. And that's probably her, like, that's what they do, and they probably give the same thing.
To everybody.
Well, depending on, I don't know. I don't want to make the assumption, but it sounds like it wasn't necessarily as holistic as it should have been. Okay, so with that said, you could say that your body has had some damage, but it's functioning now.
Yeah.
You went and you did get tested, you had the parasite, you've had it this whole time, and you've actually gone through the protocols necessary, and hopefully it's gone.
Right. Well, I've been feeling sick again, so I just got retested, so we'll see. But yeah, aside from that, I've been healthy. You know, I've been working on hormonal issues and all that stuff. So yeah.
So you have to come to a place where you literally don't care about your body image. It doesn't mean that you don't take care of it. Like, it doesn't mean you don't, you wear glasses. It doesn't mean you don't find glasses that you like. It doesn't mean that you don't do your hair the way that you feel is that you like it, right? That's not what that is. What it is not needing to have it a certain way for you to feel valuable or secure. It's taking the way you look and completely separating it from survival.
Right.
It's like knowing what you know now. Would you suggest that anybody take their looks and make it their security and make it their source of confidence in a group? Would you suggest that?
Say that one more time.
Would you?
Oh, hell no.
Say that again?
I would never suggest that to somebody, no.
Because why? What's the downside?
Because it's a false security and it's shallow.
What's the downside? What's the downside? This is what you're living in right now, is the downside.
Is the downside?
Yeah, what?
Yeah, because there's no real value in appearance and in image. There's value in something that's within you.
Well, of course that's true. However, what if you have people around you who are judging you?
Who are what?
Who are judging you.
Oh, if you have people around you judging your appearance? I mean, that speaks more to their insecurities, I think. And if you place your value in their insecurities, I mean, what does that say? What does that do?
Well, it makes you their slave. You have to look the way they want you to. So not only, you're correct. Not only are you creating a foundation of your worth based on the looks, but you're actually basing the foundation of your worth on someone thinking you're attractive. So it requires someone else's opinion and approval. So you're vulnerable to others' opinion, what they think you should wear, how they think you should do your hair, what size they think your jeans should be. You're now vulnerable to others' opinion. So you become a slave to needing their approval. So that's a huge downside.
Yeah, I mean, you give up all your power for yourself, for your life, and you're giving it to somebody else.
And you're not honoring your beliefs or your feelings. You're not honoring the fact that, oh, I liked this outfit. Right?
Right.
And you're telling me you don't. So I can't wear what I like. I have to honor what you like. How many moms right now listening to this video are becoming aware that they are doing this to their children?
Oh, yeah. That's the other thing.
We don't even need to talk about that. I know. We cannot make your parents responsible for this. Do you know why?
Why?
Because then they need to change and they need to fix this for you because they're responsible. So no matter what the history, this is like me saying, I could blame my religion. I could blame my parents because they raised me in a certain stringency. I could blame my family because I was on the lower end and there's a pecking order. I could blame the rapists. I could blame my volleyball coach in college. Think of all the blame I could say. You did this to me. You treated me this way. You believed this way. You act this way, right? You beat me. You raped me. Where does that leave me?
Yeah.
A victim and a martyr. That role gives you no power. So we can blame your parents, but where's the power now?
No, I absolutely I agree. But what I was thinking more of what my relationship with food and where I've been with my eating disorder, what that does to my kids, and the environment they're growing up in.
Well, of course. Well, this is where at some point, if you have created fear of food, body image issues for them, they have to take responsibility for it. They can sit here and go, you raised me this way.
Right.
But they can't continue to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they're going to fix their issues. They have to change their beliefs despite the fact that your parents, right, or my parents still believe that the only way for me to prove my worth is to go to a certain church, right?
Yeah.
Or to look a certain way. So, yes, you need to resolve this for yourself, and it will naturally guide your children to open their minds as well and to see themselves other than I am this body and I am what people think it looks like.
Yeah.
Like if they think I'm ugly, I'm ugly. They will see that that's not true. They will now, if you understand this, they can get criticized and they will see the criticizer.
Right.
Because they'll realize that that person is now entitling themselves into my spirit. Entitling their opinions into my life, right? They'll see that. There'll be very big separation.
Yeah.
But for them to get that, you have to get it.
Right. Right. Which is a lot of, part of the reason why I'm here. So.
Okay. So for you to get it, what we have to do for you is completely isolate you in a room without escape. So that you're the only one there. So it's like, that's why I say you cannot go back to your parents. We could say you have a predictable upbringing.
Yeah.
Controlling, so highly critical. Highly critical. Yeah. Highly critical is typical of addiction.
Okay. Yeah.
Because that's truly, the addiction is the illusion of perfection, the illusion of idealism. And when they don't get it, there's going to be some form of narcotic abuse.
Right.
So someone who, and this isn't in a vacuum. This isn't in because there's always a spectrum in terms of addiction, but in general, we can say it's a predictable under certain circumstances that someone's going to have a need for an external narcotic. Your external narcotic was body image.
Yeah.
Most people think it's the food, but that's because they don't really understand. They just think if it's pleasurable, you better watch out. You need more control, which feeds the problem.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you hear that now and you're like, no shit, right? Like if you tell someone who's just say an alcoholic and you say all you need to do is get rid of the alcohol because the alcohol is changing your brain chemistry and it makes you want more, you just basically are adding to the problem.
Right. Exactly.
And they don't even know it, but that's what they're doing. So you have to really look at, the history of that, right? And say, okay, so this is it makes sense to me why I responded this way. Because this is essentially what I was, conditioned to believe, that I have to prove my worth because that's what they thought. And that's why they were abusive, because they were constantly felt inadequate because their ideals were way higher than was in the scope of reality. Right. Okay. So that would make sense then why when you went to feel better about whatever environment you were in, that you looked for a resolve that was way way higher than what was within reality.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I do see that.
Yeah, and so you almost set yourself up for an obsessive compulsive disorder.
Yeah, totally.
Because to reach that, you have to obsess. It becomes your survival. That's where this occurs. You are messing with the area of the brain that is supposed to be meant for true threat to life. And it's not meant to be attached to something like getting all straight A's, having the perfect body, writing a book and publishing it and becoming a PhD and then traveling the world with Oprah and then, right?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah.
these people who have addiction tend to have this insane perfectionism.
Right.
That stems from, I have to prove that I'm worthy to my society. So now you are requiring approval, right? The approval part of that. It's like saying, why wouldn't you suggest your daughter in junior high try to be thin to make friends? Why wouldn't you suggest that? Well, because it requires the approval of other people to say she's thin enough, she's beautiful enough. In any given environment, she has to acclimate to be the most beautiful. Can you see where that creates and perpetuates addiction in the family?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you want to stop this, you have to isolate yourself and stay within your reality.
Okay.
You can't afford to go outside of that. In fact, when I did this for myself, I made it worse in my head than it actually was, and then acclimated to that. So I made the assumption, my fears, right? Because I think too, with people who are raised with this perfectionistic compensation, so a perfectionistic compensation for how lacking your parents felt, which means you have to lack too, which means you have to prove too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The way you resolve that is to admit that you are what you are, and that all of this, you don't want it.
Right.
And that if you are lacking, if that's what they believe and that's what you believe and that's what society believes, then that's going to have to be good enough. Wouldn't you rather be lacking than to dedicate your life to gaining approval?
Of course.
Okay, so that's where you're at. That's kind of the point where people make this incredible shift in the brain. It's when you say, I would rather be lacking, and say, you're right. In relation to your ideal,
right,
I am so inadequate. True.
Yeah.
And then what? Then what?
You're free.
Yes. And then we could say, and this is what I did, right? I said, in my mind, this is what I ended up doing when I went through this 17 years ago. I remember thinking to myself, the worst case scenario is, first of all, I'm going to be 500 pounds because everything I'm doing is to battle being fat. So if I stop battling, the fat is going to occur, because that's what's going to, if I'm going to die by fat, so be it. I don't want to fight anymore. White flag. So if I put my white flag up and I never diet again, and I never pick apart food, and I eat anything that sounds good to me without shame and guilt, I don't want to feel bad anymore, right? So I'm going to let that go. I have to accept the fight or flight response, which is, you're going to die. I said, so be it. I would rather die. If this kills me, I want to die, because you know what? I'm about to commit suicide. So that's where that came for me. And you might not be that insane, but we could say there's a level of insanity there for you. To where if you stop, what do you think is going to happen to your body? What is the hijacking of that fight or flight area of the brain tell you today? If you ate anything you wanted today when you were hungry, two hunger rhythms, What's the risk? How fat are you going to get?
I'm not even worried about that. Like, I'm
Okay, so
honestly,
you've already surpassed that.
yeah, I'm not even worried about becoming obese. My body will be whatever it is, but if I'm truly eating to hunger, I don't think that it's possible to get to. I just don't think it would happen.
Okay, hold on. But you see what you're doing right now. What if you feel like you are getting fat? You're just setting yourself up for fear.
If I feel like I am getting fat,
Yes.
oh, I know because I've been trying to do this the past few months on my own, and I know that I've gained weight or whatever. I'm not. I stopped weighing myself. I just did this morning just to give you an accurate number.
Yeah.
So I know that I did, but I'm not worried about becoming this obese. Like,
okay, well, let's pretend like that's the risk. I'm telling you, let's go there. Partly because I think once you say,
I'd rather be free.
Yes. Okay, so you've made that connection.
Yeah.
I would rather gain this much weight before I diet again. So we need to make that, it's an actual form of negotiation. We're going to negotiate for you right now. We're negotiating actually for your body. How much weight are you willing to let your body gain before you step in and try to fix it?
To be free or whatever that
well,
is.
Because once you step in and fix it, you basically are signing up for suffering. So
yeah.
How much weight is gain is equal to the suffering that you would have to go through to fix the body. Do you see what I'm saying? Which one's worse?
Yeah.
I accepted a 500-pound body. That was how much suffering I had.
Yeah, I feel like I'm being consumed by this. Like, literally, I'm burning by it. So I really am willing to.
How much weight would you be willing to gain? So let's say, how much do you weigh today?
I don't know. Yeah, 500.
Well, how much do you actually weigh today?
146.
Could you imagine 200 pounds? I mean, you're talking like 3 or 5 pounds size difference. So go there. Just go there. Could you be happy at that size? Could you live a good life if that was your body's damage?
Yeah.
Could you be happy?
Could you? I could live a good life.
Say that again?
I could live a good life, of course, if I wasn't consumed by this.
Yes, that's the key. Yeah. If you're not consumed or don't care or don't have to fix it, don't have to diet, right?
Yeah.
Can you see that? Okay, so we're going to say 60 pounds. Are you going to, so at 200 pounds though, would you feel like something needs to be fixed? So what we're trying to do is say we're going to give the body freedom. Yeah. At what point do you say I have to fix this? Which means at 200 pounds, that's enough suffering physically that I'd be willing to suffer with a diet. Some people say 50 pounds. I'm going to give my body 50 pounds of grace.
50 pounds.
Yeah, whatever it is.
I just want to see it through. If I can truly get there to that freedom and not be consumed anymore, whatever it takes I got to do, then I'm going to do it. I'm not going to, I've been there, done that all these past few years of stepping in and trying to stop the weight gain and trying to do this, trying to do that. I'm really, I need to, for myself, for my family, stop this like dysfunction.
Okay, so how much weight are you willing to gain before you start the dysfunction
100
again?
Pounds.
Okay, so we're 240. Write it down.
240. Gotcha.
I mean, you have to get a real visual of that. For me, this is where I was given an out of body. I was given the opportunity to be in a 500-pound body. Sounds bizarre, but this was essentially, I'm taking you through a needle and thread through what I was given the opportunity to go through.
Okay.
And the most effective way to go through this is to believe it's real. Beliefs. Remember when I said your brain believes what you believe?
Right.
You need to believe in what I'm describing if you want to change your brain chemistry this moment. Because it is moments. You can change your chemistry now. It requires a belief that you believe in. Okay, so the beliefs. If you've convinced yourself since junior high that being thin is where safety is, if we can get you right now to go through and actually believe, visualize 240 pounds, put yourself in that body and believe that you are safe in that is safer for you than the dieting, because in reality the dieting has been extremely dangerous,
very extremely
and
so.
full of suffering. So that is the reality.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
when you say to me, I would gain 100 pounds, don't just say that. I need you to go into this. It's vital in terms of shifting your brain chemistry in this moment. Think about what it would feel like. Let's talk about 240 pounds. How tall are you?
I'm 5'4".
Okay, at 5'4", at 240 pounds, you need to know that you're going to have a stomach that's not entirely hitting the thighs when you sit down, but you're going to have folds. Okay?
Yeah.
Your arms you're going to have like an arm, and your face is going to be different. You're going to be heavier. Going up those stairs is going to be a lot harder. Okay? So go into that suffering. Just accept it. Go into that and tell me if you can. You shut your eyes if you need to. Can you still be happy? What makes you still worthy if your spirit is in a 250-pound body? Do you change in that body?
Does my spirit change? Absolutely not.
It doesn't, does it? Does the love for your children get worse?
Not at all.
Doesn't change. Does going to the movies, does it change how you feel in the movie theater? Does it change how you feel? You might be a little bit more like snug in the chair, but you know, of course, those are things that you would have to get past.
Right.
But compare what you're getting past in that body, the physical part of it, compared to the psychological, spiritual suffering that you have witnessed firsthand trying to be thin.
Yeah.
Trying to maintain being thin, not just trying to get thin. Consider the excessive amount of exercise you probably did when you were attached to that being thin. Think of all of the just being defined by it, having to worry about having to defend it. Think about how catastrophic it was to gain 20 pounds, just 20.
Yeah. Well, I would be more free in that 240-pound body to be myself than I have been to be me all these years, trying to, just being so consumed by trying to be this skinny person.
So if you were to, let's just say, add 100 pounds, you would be free because you're accepting that you don't have to diet, which means you don't have to obsess about food. So don't forget, you're no longer binging either. So you don't have to binge anymore, and you don't have to obsess about food, and you can get everything on the menu if you want, because there's nothing to defend. And there's never a deprivation. Now, what happens to your free time? I mean, let's just what happens?
I have so much free time.
And not only that, but let's talk about what you truly want to do with your life. What do you want to do with your life? Now that it's not about looking a certain way, you can look at any way you want at this point. What do you want to do in this lifetime?
I'm pursuing a degree. I'd have more energy to, commit to my studies, just taking up extra things like music or art or whatever. All these things that I don't feel like I have time for, I think I would actually find the time for. My mind, my energy would not be spent just on obsessing over food or not eating.
How does that feel? Tell me how that feels.
So liberating. I mean, like I'm so hungry for that feeling. I can't.
Do you have that feeling right now?
Right now? Yeah, I mean,
we're talking about it. You have this freedom. I mean, you have to understand the moment you believe, that that freedom is in letting the body go, When do you get that freedom?
When you actually let go of that need.
When you actually let the body go.
Yeah.
What are we going through right now?
Letting go.
And by accepting that worst case scenario, what are you doing?
I'm accepting that my body, for whatever it is,
you're letting the body go.
Just letting it go.
So now where is your security?
It has to be from within myself.
It's in that freedom.
Yeah.
You need to, so what we're doing is we're taking your brain right now and we're readjusting. If you gain fat, does it feel like you're gonna die?
No.
Did it a month ago?
Oh, hell yeah.
Like, I'm gonna die. Oh my God, I have to fix this. It's insane.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Once you go through this cognitive process and we take you above and beyond where you're at, can you see that that gives you complete freedom from having to do anything other than listen to the body? You now can be free to just let the body tell you when to eat, what to eat. You're going to look at a menu. The next meal you have today, you realize is free. Yeah. In terms of choice. At this point, if you don't have to worry, the body is no longer in the scope of security other than that it stays alive.
Right.
Could you lose your legs in a car accident and be happy?
Of course.
Now you're connecting. It's like, well, yeah, I don't need legs. They're good. They make it easy to move around, but I don't have to have them to be happy. I don't have to have any condition other than alive. I need to be alive and conscious. That's pretty much all I need from this body.
100%.
Because I can survive in a bigger body the same way I do a smaller body.
Absolutely.
I'll just change my clothes. I will just find clothes that really are part of my artistic expression, with colors and with textiles, whatever that is. I can wear my makeup differently. I can do so much stuff. I don't have to be thin to be a good mom, to learn at school, to pursue these things. So now that's gone, and you have, at this second, you realize that you're free.
Yeah.
So think about the freedom now in terms of the food. Just go into that. What does this give you now? What is the gift of letting the body go with food?
With food, just being able to have whatever I feel like my body wants at that moment.
I want you to think about right now, what sounds good to you? Like if you were hungry right now, go into the mouth, because that's where the body talks in terms of palatability. What really sounds good to you?
Like peanut butter.
Peanut butter on like toasted bread, or peanut butter on an apple, or
banana, peanut butter, honey sandwich.
Is that something that you might have judged before?
Oh, I would definitely have judged before.
Because of the carbs and the starch and the nut being legume. Oh my God, it's all bad, right? Relative to what religion you're following. Yeah. How does it feel to say that's what I want? Should you feel bad about that?
No.
Should you feel like we need to correct something from eating that? Should you feel like your body can't handle that?
No, of course it should be able to.
So once you release the body, you are now free from feeling bad about yourself. You know that, right?
Yeah.
So if you eat that food, I want you to consider what you just gave yourself. You don't have to feel bad about it anymore. So you didn't fail. You didn't suck. Nothing's wrong. Nothing failed. So if you eat that, you didn't fail. What happens now to your feelings of I failed, I ruined it? The day is ruined. Will you ever feel that way again?
No. And so no need to binge then, and then no need to correct that binge.
What if it's candy?
Even so.
I know, right? Even though that's the most potent narcotic, it's like cocaine.
Absolutely.
the other thing that happens too, because once you give yourself that freedom, what chronic dieters typically feel is that it's going to go away. It's going to go away, right? Notice how once you give yourself this freedom, once you have that peanut butter and honey on bread sandwich, is it going to go away? You realize you can have that
whenever I want.
Whenever it sounds good to you for the rest of your life, as long as we live in this abundance. You realize that? Okay. How's that sound?
It sounds amazing. Like freedom.
So when you really think of it that way, is that really what you want right now, or is that something that you've withheld from yourself?
That sandwich?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
because you can have it at any time, right? Remember, it's not going to go away. You can have it any time you want at this point.
Oh, yeah, it's something that I probably definitely just withheld from myself.
Most people do that right off the gates. They start with, I want a donut! I'm like, hold on. Remember, it's not going away. That impulse stemmed from the diet. It's like you felt withheld. So it's naturally going to be, if that's your forbidden fruit, that's going to be the natural thing you first want to go get. But actually, if you speak to the mouth, you'll remember. You can have a donut the next time you're hungry, and the next time you're hungry, and the next time you're hungry, and tomorrow, and all day tomorrow, and you can have it the next day. You can have it every single day if that's what you want. So let's really go into the mouth and let's talk to it without the bias stemming from feeling deprived.
Yeah.
Go into it now. Is it salty? Is it creamy? I mean, do you want something warm? Do you want something cold? I mean, you have a menu in front of you that is full of every type of food possible, because we actually have that available to us today.
Right. You know, it's so foreign to like just give yourself that freedom. I don't even know. You know.
Well, do you want eggs? Do you want, a McDonald's? Do you want a McDonald's egg McMuffin? Do you want pancakes? Do you want waffles with cream? I mean, really, really go into that. I mean, so this is the key now to where we're going to start. Where do we go from here? Now that you're free and you get to live in this abundance, and you now have the freedom to eat, and we need you to relearn your body's biology. So you are to wait until you're actually hungry. And when you're hungry, you need to speak to the mouth and say, I live in abundance. If I was given the choice based on the pleasure, I'm looking for that specific narcotic draw to the food. What's going to make me the highest in this moment? You got to speak to the mouth. Is it salty? Is it creamy? Is it fruit? Is it vegetables? Is it crunchy? Do you want blue cheese? Do you want Italian? Is it the vinegar? I mean, you speak to your mouth. You have the freedom to do that now.
Yeah.
And don't judge whatever comes up. And if you have access to it, you can go get it. And it doesn't need to be made with almond flour.
Flaxseed meal.
I mean, you could. I mean, because then at this point, too, at some point, you can now blend the narcotic part of the decision and some of this intelligence. It's like, I have coconut flour, almond flour, I have flax flour, I have all those things because I like to add nutrition to the pancakes I'm making. But they also have real flour, and I actually use real molasses, and I actually use real sugar. And I have stevia, and I have, right? And I use coconut oil. I'm still using food nutritionally, but I'm certainly not defined by that. I'm not a better person because I use coconut oil to make my popcorn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You see that there is it doesn't become me. I am not my nutrition. I'm not my lack of nutrition. If I want a McDonald's Egg McMuffin, I'm going to get probably 2. And then it's like, I'm not an evil person. My body is so capable. I trust my body. I love my body. I'm giving it the job it was made for. It's not my job to do its job, right? So this is where we start. How do you feel?
I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm really just chomping at the bit to just get there.
Well, you've done the hard part. You realize the hard part is over.
It is. I hope so.
Well, you tell me. The fact that you have given your body freedom to be 240 pounds, if it's going to do that, hello, you just left. You left.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to create another scenario. What happens if you give your body that lenience and you start eating to this narcotic pleasure and you start eating to hunger? So you're completely biologically being driven, okay?
Yeah.
With food. And you're doing it and you're no shame, no guilt. You're no longer binging. That obviously goes away immediately for people. Right. There's no like, I have to withhold the binge because I want to binge, but I'm not. There's none of that. There's no fight. It's over. It's that you're about to, when I speak to you again, you're going to go, oh my God, this is so easy. I'm going to go, I know. Okay?
Yeah.
What happens if your body naturally starts to, on its own, lose body fat?
That's dangerous too.
I'm so glad you just recognized that. And that's why I bring that up. Because if your body naturally on its own loses weight and you attach to it like, ooh, all of a sudden the beliefs, right, of I'm amazing. Oh my God, I'm fitting into my jeans. This is so awesome. What are you about to do?
Mess it all up.
Why?
Because you're attaching to the thinness, and if it ever goes away, or if you feel like it's threatened in any way,
what are you going to do?
Automatically start controlling everything again.
And what's about to happen?
Yeah, you binge, you all right. It all over again.
You got it. The equation of the binge comes back in. All of a sudden, you feel like you have to fix the consequences from that binge, and you just got sucked down into that vortex.
That I think is more dangerous, attaching to the thinness than worrying about getting fat for some reason.
Let's imagine. Let's just put you there.
Yeah.
You have this freedom. You said, body, I do not care. You can do what you want. Would you even want to acknowledge that you're losing weight?
No, I wouldn't even want to know.
What if someone goes, oh my gosh, Stephanie, you look amazing. Yeah. Oh, you must be doing CrossFit. What are you going to say?
I don't want to hear it.
No, you say, no, I'm actually not.
I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, and I'm just focusing on my mental well-being, and I'm not working on my body. My body this is my body's work. Yeah. It's not my work.
Right. Yeah. But that is, even when somebody gives you a compliment, it feeds into that sickness of
there's a big if to that.
Yeah. If you attach to the thing.
Thank you. If you're looking for, if you want and need their approval, if you still live in that I need their approval to feel good about myself. Remember when I said you need to put yourself into a right room without exits? Okay. You are with yourself at all times, independent.
Yeah.
So when someone says, oh my gosh, you're so cool. Oh my God, you did an amazing job. I love you. You're so cool and amazing. Oh my God, I'm so impressed by you. What happens if you're in that white room with no exits?
It doesn't matter.
Nope. Because you know it's not even real. It's their projection of themselves. They are the ones who feel good.
Yeah.
They're the ones who are approving you. And whether they approve of you or not, that's just a reflection of what their beliefs are. It's kind. It's great. Thank you for the compliment. Whatever the reason or intention is behind it, you can say thank you. But is it going to change? Does it influence your behavior?
No.
Nope. If it does, if it does, it means that you still don't feel adequate within yourself. Right? It's like with when I wrote Weight Loss Apocalypse, I continually had to go through the process of, again, I learned this early on, 17 years ago. My beliefs changed my behavior. My beliefs changed my behavior. What do I believe about this book I'm writing? What happens if someone hates it? How does it feel? I would go through it as if it was real, and then I would create a response before I even published it.
Right.
How do I detach from someone thinking it sucks? From a single star? From someone who thinks that I'm totally stupid? Right. Well, I realize that, in relative to what they believe, they're right. Why would I argue with someone who's actually right relative to their beliefs? I am not writing this for their approval. So therefore, if they don't approve of it, it doesn't matter.
So,
Yeah, I'm detached from the outcome. If someone approves of it, oh my God, this is amazing, 5 stars, you've changed my life, right? I would go through that. How do I not need that or want it or need more? How do I allow myself to have that without it affecting me? Shutting all doors, right? Only way for that to not influence me is to write it not for their approval. So it goes both ways. So when you're doing this, you have to remove the access to getting approval in any direction.
Okay.
So you have to isolate yourself in a white space with no exits, assuming the worst, getting the best, and it not changing anything you're doing, because the context of why you're doing what you do is self-approving. To start. It's like saying, if you're going to give yourself this freedom from body image, you might want to not try to find something else to get approval for.
Of course, yeah.
So moving forward, you have to approve of you now. Worst case, you don't need, remember those high, lofty things that you were told you had to do as a child? And then because you are low, it's like saying, okay, I'm going to assume I'm at the lowest. Is that good enough?
Of course.
It has to be.
Yeah.
Because if that's the truth, then you're free.
Yeah.
If you believe in it, if you just say, here's the truth of where I'm at, and it doesn't change if someone's worse than me or I'm better than them. It doesn't make this better than it actually is. It is what it is. And them having their struggle doesn't make them worse. It is where they need to go through whatever they're going through, and it's not my going through. It's not a sign that I'm better, right? That comparison that people do when they're in that addiction.
Yeah.
It's like other people